Hey YouTube. Today, I want to talk to you about this whole regressive left thing, the social justice warriors, and the crazy feminists. I really want to address where I think it all came from. To start, I'd like to premise this with trigger warnings, spoiler warnings, and caution warnings. This is not going to be what you think it is. And, in the interest of full disclosure, I need to state right now that I know way too much about the left, because I feel like I was right there with them for the majority of my life. And it took years of serious consideration to settle on an ideology that I'm currently sitting at. Most of the conclusions that I came to were a result of knowing what the problem is and trying to actually solve the problem. And the regressive left has become a problem for me. And here is where we begin. From what I understand, the left-leaning education is something that was invented around the 60s, after everyone got settled down from World War II and everyone got their rights. And the moment people got comfortable, a counterculture movement began, and the hate for the man began. Back then, the term the man represented the established government and the enforcement of societal norms. Slowly, people have learned to question what they were taught in school, by their parents and by religion. And I mean academically, not just as a concept, as we've been doing that for a millennia. There was the pre-established status quo, and there was the rebels that dared to defy it. Social heroes, as we call them. There was a strong movement and a push to start teaching a leftist alternative to the status quo, and people demanded a critical analysis of the way that money and power were distributed all over the world. And eventually, they got it. And so, a liberal education was born. And the critical analysis began. And it carried on to such a degree that today, you can take a course on the critical analysis of Western imperialism, or a gender studies class. But it doesn't stop there. You could also take a course on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or a course on Star Wars. Thank you, liberal arts degree. But I digress. The critical analysis was never supposed to be a standalone position. It was supposed to be a critical analysis of the current structure, and to help the new generation build a better tomorrow. But something sinister occurred. People quickly forgot that the critical analysis is meant to be a guide to a better tomorrow, and decided that it should be the dominant paradigm. That there should be no other way to look at any of these ideas other than through a lens of critical analysis. And so, people have been indoctrinated into this ideology for generations. And as one generation with this mentality grows, they pass it on to the next, and the next. But they always build on the ideas they've been taught, on and on, until here we are. We are taught in schools that we do not tolerate intolerance. I'm sure we've all heard of the zero tolerance policy in one form or another. And how does that even make sense? How can you tell somebody to be intolerant of the intolerant and still be the righteous one? Should we not tolerate and show the other that same tolerance that we want in return? The other point of this is that I was taught this phrase when I was in grade 3, and it didn't make any sense to me then either. But others are a lot more accepting of the phrase, and I believe that that phrase imprints a huge cognitive dissonance into a young child's mind and teaches them to accept it. How does one teach a young child to literally act contrary to the exact same ideology that they preach? Which brings us to today. Today, we have people running around and yelling about persecution and identity, never having either. We have people demanding that they be respected, while showing zero respect. We have people claiming that they are being persecuted as they're being catered to. We also have people today that outright demand that the only way to stop the intolerance of others is to put the people that are intolerant in prison. I went to a leftist liberal school. I got their education. And I want to tell you guys what others aren't. I get it. This might be hard to understand, and I want you to bear with me. There's so much more to say, and much, much more to break down, and so much more to analyze. Stick around. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you soon.